Welcome. I hope this video finds you healthy. My name is Samuel Hazo, and I am your virtual music teacher for today's online music class. If you are one of the directors or schools who contacted me about having a Google Hangouts lesson or a Zoom class, this is the video that I promised. That steady drip of requests turned into 137 requests. And while that is flattering, it's also impossible. So I decided to make one class, film it, and anyone can use it at their own convenience. So welcome to today's class titled
The Worst Japanese Swear Word and How That Relates to Your Responsibility as a Musician.
Now, before the lesson starts, you need to hear a little story that helps put it in perspective. A little over 10 years ago, I was invited to Toyota City in Japan to work with the Anjo Gakken Wind Orchestra and their conductor, Mr. Yoshimi. They were incredibly welcoming. They were an extremely talented group. They were wonderful people, and I had just the best time. And on my final day there, Mr. Yoshimi's daughter, who was my interpreter, drove me back to the Nagoya airport from Toyota City. And on the way, she asks me, "Is there anything else that we can do before you leave? Is everything okay? Is there anything else you need to know or we need to get?" Seventh grade me decides to make an appearance and ask,
"What is the worst swear word there is in Japanese?"
And she thinks about it, and she looks over and she goes, "Well, the worst one would have to be..." I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" And she says, "Oh, that means darn it." And I told her, I said, darn it isn't exactly the worst swear word we have in English. And she looked back and said, "Oh, but if you say it loudly, it means..." I said, "Well, that definitely qualifies as one of the worst swear words we have in English." And I was fascinated by the fact that the Japanese have a word or a phrase that can differ in meaning or severity depending on how you say it. So since seventh grade me was already out and having a grand old time, I used the second half of that ride to the Nagoya airport to say in every possible volume and inflection that I could think of, and after I'd say it, she would tell me what I'm saying in Japanese. Now, pause that thought and remember that story. So let's look at your role as a musician whenever a new piece of music is introduced. You have to understand that it is not entirely the role of the conductor or the composer to shape how a piece of music sounds. You, the musician, have crucial decisions to make throughout the entire length of the piece. Suppose you walk into your rehearsal room and you look on the music stand and there's a new piece of music and you see this. Well, of course you're going to want to get the note right, but composers put the articulations and dynamics above and below the staff to help you establish the character of the piece. And of course, you're going to want to listen to what the music director or the conductor is communicating about how they want it to go. But here's where the inside baseball of music occurs, and you have responsibilities and decisions to make too. Let's refresh our memory about what that measure looked like. You see that fortissimo? Before you even attempt that fortissimo, you have to do rule number 1, which is look up in the right-hand corner and see who composed that piece. If you look up in the right-hand corner and you see this, then you pretty much know you can take that fortissimo to the wall. If you look up in the right-hand corner and you see this, you might want to take the edge off a bit. If you look up in the right-hand corner and you see this, or this, you know that all options are open. If you happen to look up in the right-hand corner and see this, particularly if it's to the right of this, then you can blow until your lips prolapse out of the bell of your horn, and John will stand up halfway through the performance and applaud your efforts. Seriously though, you have to know who the composer of the piece is, because the very foundation of your role as a musician is to speak or play in the voice of the composer. We must never as musicians speak in a voice that the composer didn't possess. That would be like combining Van Halen and the Jackson 5. That would never work. Just once. Rule number 2. Study the title. Look at the title and see if it has some historical reference or some allusion to life that you can capture. For example, if you look up at the title and composer and you see this, then you dig inside your emotional baggage and pull out whatever you need to convey that message. If you look at the title and the composer and you see this, then you dig into your emotional baggage, find your pain, and let the audience have it. And that reminds me of a biography that I read in the late 1980s of the musician Sting, former bassist for the Police, solo artist, composer. There's a line that he put in there that has stuck with me all of these years, and that is, all musicians have to have pain in their lives. If you're a musician and you don't have pain in your life, go get some. Which brings me to rule number 3. Your emotional baggage must be full, it must be accessible, and you must have no hesitation to use it. If your director looks at you and says,
Play a B flat.
You need to say, you want a happy B flat, sad B flat, contentious B flat, panic B flat, tenuous, frustrated. I know 20 different kinds of B flats. Which one do you want? Rule number 4. You must always listen to the music around you, not so you can camouflage into it, but so that you can discern what's missing and fill that in, complementing everyone else's playing around you. This goes for any style of music and any type of ensemble. Now, I know you know me as a composer, and some of you may have even played under me as a conductor, but here's a little secret. I'm a drummer. I even have a college degree in it.
I went to college!
That means I have idols who are drummers, and I'm going to use one as an example for rule number 4. About 9 months ago, I got to meet Aaron Spears, and of all the things I respect about Aaron Spears playing, I respect most of all that Aaron has the innate ability to listen to the music around him, and he can instinctively determine what's missing and mold his part into the perfect puzzle piece that complements the whole musical picture. Here's a quick sample of that, because hearing it is better than me talking about it. Yeah, I'd be smiling too if I just landed that fill and kept the backbeat and the groove going the whole time. Which brings us to rule number 5. Most importantly, be you. Bring everything about yourself to the music that you're playing. What's going to separate your playing from everyone else's is not that you played it faster or you played it with more power. It's who you are as a person and what layers of yourself you allowed to visit the music. Iconic guitarist Carlos Santana once said, I can pick up any guitar and everybody will know it's me playing it. Likewise, legendary drummer Roy Haynes was once asked in an interview, what's it like to play a different drum set every night on the Chitlin circuit, because every club had its own drum kit and he had to change every night. So was it hard to play a different instrument? You know what he said? He said, I'm the instrument. The drums aren't the instrument. I'm the instrument. So above all else, be you. Bring your individual musical strengths and your individual life experiences to every piece of music you play. Find your ties to the composer, to the title, to the story, to the musicians around you, and to your own unique special offerings. When all musicians do that, listeners around the world might hear the same thing spoken, but it will mean something totally different. It's why Fritz Reiner's recording with the Chicago Symphony of Beethoven 5 sounds completely different than Leonard Bernstein's New York Philharmonic recording. And it's why Miles Davis, John Coltrane, George Benson, Oscar Peterson, Chick Corea all recorded on Green Dolphin Street, but no two are the same, and no two stir the same emotion. That's your responsibility as a musician, and your contribution is more than just the notes and the sound. It's the meaning behind it. And the next time your boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, sister, brother, mother, father ever look at you and say,
It's not what you said, it's how you said it.
you'll understand.